Oxford crew. They haven't got the individuals, but they've got the team, and they're rowing very well together. Cambridge is a little bit longer in style, and some would say sort of more efficient, and they've hung on around the outside of the bend, and it's going to be interesting now. It's going to be one race to the finish.
A moment ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you which crew I'd rather be in, but at this point, I think things are starting to look good for Cambridge. They've almost pulled back level, and in a few more minutes, they will have the advantage of the inside of the next bend.
The point being, gentlemen, presumably that Cambridge had to hang on round the big Surrey bend, and provided they're more or less level, the final portion of the race will favour Cambridge.
The last bend is in Cambridge's favour, and as we can see on the shot there, Cambridge have started to edge their bows in front. They've actually gone up to 36 strokes a minute again, which is very, very high for 10.5 minutes into the race. They're putting the physical effort in. I could have pre-planned move, or whether it was a called race move, but they've started to edge their bows in front, and this is a big psychological moment for Oxford, because they've done their tactics exceptionally well, but they're maybe not quite in the advantage they would have hoped for, because Oxford now are going to be on the back foot and are going to have to use the last part of their bend.
Up to and beyond the Chiswick steps. The leaders at this point almost always turn out to be the winners. Oxford have twice since the turn of this century, though, turned the deficit at Chiswick steps into victory. Cambridge haven't achieved that since 1961. There was 0.3 of a second between the crews at the Chiswick steps.
Cambridge still pushing 36, 37 strokes a minute. That's very high. They've been rowing for over 10 minutes. These guys, they might look smooth, but they're feeling very tired. At this point, things are actually looking quite good for Cambridge. Look ahead down the course. This bend of Oxford's advantage is almost over.
Nick Brodie is calling for his crew to break them. He's really calling now for a hard push from his crew. Yeah, it's going to hurt. They have to make the advantage of this last part of their Surrey bend count, because by the time they get to that balloon on the right-hand side, the bend starts to work in Cambridge's favour, and it's going to be very tough around the outside.
The Surrey bend just about behind them. Oxford's advantage has been used, and Cambridge have a lead, and it starts to look promising for those in light blue. Now the straight sprint for Barnesbridge. What advantage the river still has to offer, it offers to those big Germans at the front of your picture there, with Kieran West behind them, and Tom James, the president, how he needs this.
Kieran West actually in the crew there talking. You could hear him say, come on, this is it. And now you can see that the crew is starting to take confidence from their position. That Cambridge boat is starting to row a little bit longer and a little bit better.
Yeah, Cambridge is starting to show their class here. When they were under pressure, they weren't rowing their best. Now they've got Oxford's in their sights. They're lengthening out. They're looking quite good here.
They surge along Corney Reach, past Duke's Meadows and up to the bandstand. Mother Nature today has chosen to be at her kindest. Far from the bumping, boring, bucking bronco waves of last year, today the river is a veritable shirt front, barely a crease on it. The quicker crew should win, and the shape of the race now suggests that the quicker crew, as anticipated, ultimately will be Cambridge. What might be left in the Oxford boat, Tim?
Well, Oxford have got to basically sprint now as if there's only 2 minutes left. There's about 5 minutes left of the race, but the race is going to be determined, I think, in these next 2 minutes between here and Barnesbridge. Very tight bend, but if Oxford can get themselves to overlap when their bend comes and take that bend tight, they can still disrupt Cambridge.
Wayne, you were the last Cambridge president to be ahead at this point, to go on and win the race. Is it simply a case of keeping their wits about them, common sense, rhythm?
At this point, yes. It's not a commanding lead, but given that they have the inside of the next bend, if they just maintain boat speed, they should finish ahead of Oxford. But they have to keep their eye on Oxford. I wouldn't underestimate any of those guys in the last 2 minutes of the race.
They're past the bandstand, which is, to all intents and purposes, a 3-mile indicator. They have perhaps 5 minutes more to row. The first glimpse of Barnesbridge represents a gloriously welcome sight for the leading Cox. Her first confirmation that she is towards journey's end, that she and those who row for her have only to hold what they have now. For the leading crew, the uplifting view is of those trailing, and for those trailing, all they see now is the water and the lengthening shadow of probable defeat.
Oxford have started to sprint. It's as if they heard the commentary, and actually they've gone up to nearly 40 strokes a minute to actually try and pull back that deficit. They've realised they can't wait until the last minute to sprint. They're going to have to sprint now, and there's still the 4 minutes to go. It's a big gamble, but it's one they're going to have to try and take.
We can get down to James Cracknell on the river. How are you reading it, James? Is it Cambridge's race?
Yeah, it was from about 2 minutes ago. 2 minutes ago, Cambridge's blade works looking very sharp. Oxford looking very scrappy. And they're really struggling now. It's just going to be a case of damage limitation for Oxford. I think Cambridge are really going to lay it into them now.
Barnes Railway Bridge has been shot through its central span. 3/4 of a mile to go. One mild Middlesex bend. Oxford have it all to do. It is going to be Rebecca Dalbiggin's race. And they respond to her. Every race since the war, bar one, has been won by the leaders at Barnes Bridge. Concentration despite fatigue, consistency of stroke at the limit of their endurance, just holding on now.
As you can see it in the Cambridge crew, since they got their bows in front, they've just got stronger and stronger. They're rowing longer, they've got their rhythm, and Rebecca, everything she's calling is technical. She's not having to call for the big physical demands, they're there already. But every call she makes is a technical call, and her crew are responding.
Cambridge pedigree against Oxford passion, and the names in the Cambridge boat have met the reputations in the Cambridge boat here. They're approaching Mortlake Brewery on the Surrey side. That is the 4-mile mark.
By historical standards, up until a few minutes ago, this was still a very close race, closer than I expected, given the talent mismatch between the crews. So I think we've got to give full credit to Oxford here for putting in a full effort.
I think it was an amazing effort they put in at the start, and it is starting to tell now. As I said, Cambridge are getting stronger, and the energy demands of Oxford's start and first half are just starting to tell. They're still hanging on in there. It's only just over a length, but yeah, it's Cambridge who are very much in the driving seat.
As smooth, as glassy, as frictionless as an Augusta green, without impediment either from the elements or the opposition, without inhibition, without a care in the world. Cambridge have waited a little while for this. There have been some dark days for the light blues just recently, but the clouds are clearing now. For 2 long years they have longed for the day when, with Barnes Bridge behind them, the Oxford boat is behind them too. A Cambridge boat staffed with men, several of whom had done this before, but only one of whom had won this before, and that is all about to change. An international crew with a British heart, a German engine, an uncompromising North American competitive streak, and it is theirs to lose now, Wayne.
It sure is, and right now I'm thinking about Tom James, the man who's gone down this course 3 times before, lost every time. He's got to enjoy these last few minutes looking at Oxford in their wake.
It is perhaps more than anyone else's day, Tom James's day. Until now, few have invested more than him in this race for such little return. This time they have refused to lose. This time they did get it right on the day. This time Cambridge are insisting that it should be them. They are getting their way, unflinching, resilient, driven. 2007 is the year the light blues bit back. It is Cambridge.
A fantastic race. I mean, credit to both crews. Oxford were the underdogs. They didn't have the talent, but yeah, they rode incredibly well. They rode incredibly tough and hard and made it hard work for Cambridge. But credit to Cambridge. Their style, their class, their weight advantage did show in the end. Yeah, and they can take the victory.
The Oxford spell has been broken. What a wonderful sight, though, this must be for Cambridge's ebullient coach Duncan Holland, whose debut dreams were dashed in the waves and weather of 2006, but who in 2007 can choose mentally to frame this image and stick it on the mantelpiece of his life. After successive bitter defeats, a sweet-tasting success, sweetest of all for the president Tom James. He moves from serial boat race competitor to boat race winner. Kieran West signs off with a win. The Germans Schulter and Engelmann have been overdue this feeling. And for Kit McDaniel, the Canadian who moved from one end of the boat to the other, a sporting sensation right at the other end of the scale. For the rest of them, happily, this is all they have ever known. O'Shaughnessy, champion Cornelius, first-time boat race competitors victorious. And Rebecca Dalbiggin becomes the first woman to cox the light blues to victory since Vian Sharif in 1999. The gap between them is back to 6. Cambridge lead by 79 to 73 and 1 dead heat. The exchanging boat race trophy for their victory in the 153rd contest will be to Cambridge University.